Kemba's sort of the latest star or former star to receive effectively the Danny Ainge, Ray Allen treatment, to have the hurt feelings about, thinking your role and being included in trade talks, and now supposedly he's looking for a mutual parting. He's looking for a fresh start somewhere else where he feels wanted, and I get that. And you talk about not having anything bad to say. Like, nobody has anything bad to say about Kemba Walker, the guy, the person, the man. Like, incredible dude. Unfortunately, he's just dealing with a chronic knee injury that he can't stay on the floor. To the idea of getting rid of him, I've been advocating for that for a year. Like, please, yes, move that contract. It's not about Kemba. It's about the deal. Move the money. I just don't know where makes sense and what you also will have to give up with him in order to make that happen, to get something back that you're content with.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be hard trading Kemba Walker for some of the reasons you mentioned. First of all, Kemba Walker's a hell of a player. When he's healthy, he's a hell of a player. He's a guy that will take and make big shots in the fourth quarter. He is a guy, as you guys know, that was an excellent defensive player at his position this year. So I don't think that'll be a problem. Point guard is everything in the NBA now. You got to have one. You have to have an elite one to have any chance. Is he elite? Probably not, but he's right below elite. You know what I mean? Like, he's a really good point guard. So, like, if you told me the Lakers are trying to get him, I'd go, yeah, that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, that makes sense. Now, the problem is I don't think the Celtics want Dennis Schroeder back, but that's you have to figure out how to make that deal, right? So I think, though, if I won't be surprised if he's moved this summer at all, because I think, to your point, I don't think this has worked out the way he thought it was going to work out in Boston for him. Part of that has to do with the injury, but part of it has to do with Jason Tatum's really damn good, and if you're asking me who should get the ball at the end of the game, I'm picking Jason Tatum most of the time. Right. So, it's really hard to get three really good players to share the ball. It just is. That's why I think nobody will ever admit this in Brooklyn, but I think Harden being hurt has helped them immensely in these first two games of the series, because nobody has any problem with KD taking 35 shots now. It's just really hard. It's hard to do. That's why it only happens when the three guys decide to make it happen. It doesn't happen when you just pick, I want this guy, and then I'm going to have this guy, and then I'm going to have this guy, and we'll make it work. No, the three guys get together and say, we want to play with each other, and they make that happen. So they didn't do that in this case. This was not Kemba and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown saying, let's play together. No, they couldn't. They were about to lose Gordon Hayward, and they said, well, you got to get something for him. So they did. So yeah, that won't surprise me. I mean, like, for example, and again, this is based on no information. You told me Toronto was trying to get Kemba Walker. I go, yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense for them. They still have a window. They still think they can contend. If you tell me we can replace Kyle Lowry with a fixed cost player in Kemba Walker, and it's a high cost, but it's a fixed cost, I know what I'm going to pay. Yeah, that makes sense for me. I mean, with the group that they have. So Miami, same thing. Makes sense. Dragic is on his way out. They'll probably re-sign him for short money, but they need a point guard long term. And Kemba's pretty good. So there's suitors. There's teams where it makes sense to go get Kemba Walker.
There have been some interesting names floating around. Of course, what apparently spurned the Walker, hurt feelings. Danny Ainge trying to deal him for Drew Holiday, like we mentioned before. He wound up in Milwaukee. That's not turned out great in the postseason anyway. And then more recently, Chris Mannix said they tried to deal him for LaMarcus Aldridge in the middle of the year, which, I mean, that is really a slap to the face if you're Kemba Walker. So I don't know. I mean, we're gonna continue to hear stuff, obviously, over the course of the regular season or off season. It's silly season. It's rumors fly, and to that end, Brad Stevens has some very difficult decisions to make. Seemingly, Jason Tatum is untouchable and should be. I feel the same way about Jaylen Brown, but some have, at least entertained the, would you trade Jaylen Brown for X? We know close to home for you that the Tatum, the Celtics, they'd love to see Bradley Beal there in the event that obviously the Wizards were going to deal him. You'd probably have to part with Brown in that package. Now there are the, Damian Lillard, now that he's not going to get Jason Kidd and he's not thrilled with what's going on. He may want out of Portland. Well, you'd probably have to obviously get rid of Jaylen Brown in that package as well. In terms of Boston acquiring a genuine, real, current day star. Like I said, Beal close to you, Lillard, guys like that, maybe someone we're not even thinking about. Is there a possibility?
Well, look, on the surface, obviously Beal makes sense. He's, as you know, very close to Tatum, grew up together, coached him in the AAU, all, very, very close relationship. It makes all the sense in the world that they would want to play together. The only problem is the Wizards are trading. I mean, other than that fact,
Yeah, it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, they've had 2 years to trade this guy, and they haven't traded him yet. So I have to think they're gonna ride this pony out. Now that they had some semblance of success at the end of this season with him and Westbrook playing at a very high level, that they would like to have at least one more year of that grouping together. And try to build around them. Now, I don't know if they're going to, I don't think they'll be able to, but we'll see. We'll see. So I don't necessarily believe Beal is in play or would be in play, even for Jaylen Brown, who's a really good player and would certainly make a lot of sense if you were a team rebuilding. But I've only asked Ted Leonsis 1,000 times if he's ready to blow this thing up, and he keeps saying no. So at some point, you got to take the guy at his word that he doesn't want to rebuild. So, are there? I mean, I think Dallas would love to move Porzingis, but I can't see Boston being the team that he winds up with. That just why would you trade for another front court guy that's thirsty and wants the ball all the time? That just does not make any sense to me if you're Boston. So I kind of
stay on the floor.
Yeah, I kind of think that that's not going to happen there. I don't, some of us will depend on the lottery, of course. I think Golden State certainly, I think they certainly have to look at, hey, how do we maximize the time that we have left of Steph Curry at his absolute peak? At some point, it just doesn't, you can't wait for James Wiseman. If you're Steph Curry, you can't wait 2 more years for Wiseman to kind of come into his own. So I think Golden State is certainly a team I would look at potentially. Now, would they trade Draymond? I don't think so. But for Jaylen Brown, you have to think about it, right? You have to think about it. You have to think about it.
What about Lillard?
I'll never say never. Damian, as you guys know, is incredibly loyal to Portland. Incredibly, has really been adamant he wants to try and win there. I think he has to get the coach he wants, whoever that is. He made kind of a forward play to try to get Kidd the job. That just, Jason's going to have to work on a lot of things, and there's a lot of stuff he's going to have to own and explain, I think, before he gets a job anywhere, not just Portland. There's just a lot of stuff that Jason Kidd's going to have to deal. He's got to have a story or an explanation for all of this stuff that we know. So if it winds up being Billups, so I think it will be. I think Lillard said he'd be fine with Chauncey as the coach. So look, is it possible? Yes, anything's possible. But I would think it'd be unlikely that Lillard would demand a trade if he gets the coach he wants. And I suspect if he gets some say in, hey, I'd like, we need to get X player, Y player in a trade. And if that means trading McCollum or one of the other guys, I'm sure he'd be down with that if it makes the team better.
Yeah, the loyalty between the two guys, Beal and Lillard, make life a little bit more difficult. I like the Golden State idea for Boston, but not. I think there's the most popular trade rumor, I guess, or at least out there that I think people can accept is that at some point there's a decision that has to come with Marcus Smart and what you need to do with him. And much as it would pain for me to see the Celtics part with him, because he's a really important part of the team's culture.
Yeah.
He's a great defender, although it took us a little slide back this year. That's why I don't think they want Porzingis. They watched Marcus Smart box out Kristaps Porzingis too many times to even want any part of it.
I think Porzingis has a very limited universe of teams right now.
Right.
Between the money and just not being able to stay healthy and what is he? You still don't know what I mean. Rick Carlisle, who's a great coach, tried to convince everybody that this guy's a stretch 5 and he's going to revolutionize the game. And you didn't play him down the stretch, in the postseason. So, well, come on, at some point you are what you are, and you max them, you gave him a max deal. So,
right, yeah, it's not a great look. It's not a good look.
Yeah,
trying to pump up a guy that can't get off your bench in a do or die game, against the Clippers,
exactly.
who won't have a ton of size themselves either. They're trying to play as small as humanly possible. So,
right,
not like they're up, but like the smart thing. I look at teams that could use a Marcus Smart, and it's teams that are contenders. Sure. You're not like the rebuilding teams, like a team like Houston's not going to want Marcus Smart because they're trying to lose as many games and acquire as much talent, young talent, as humanly possible. Smart to, maybe a team like Golden State or a team like Portland or a team, that's, maybe in Indiana or somebody that needs that missing piece of that defensive guy. Maybe that's the way Boston improves. And I try and look around the landscape and try and figure out like what in your opinion, what timeline is Boston in, because of the way they overachieved early with Jaylen and Jason, going to the Eastern Conference Finals a couple of times when they're 19, 20, 21. But you look at this past season, you look at what the Nets are doing right now, and you say, we are not close to that. We're not. I mean, you look yourself in the mirror. You're not close to that. That team is blowing out Milwaukee by 40 points.
Nobody's close to that.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Like, nobody's close to that. When they're firepower, nobody's got that. Nobody's going to get that, right? So
my question being, like, you look at the landscape, Boston's got to get better in some capacity. That Kemba contract's hard to move. That Smart contract's much easier.
Yeah.
I look at that Golden State. I don't know if it happened yet. I've been insanely busy, so maybe I missed it. Minnesota, that pick that they owe Golden State, that has not been we haven't had the lottery yet.
No, the lottery's not till the end of this month. So
so we don't. That to me lines up. Like, if you're trying to maximize Curry, and give him, I'm not saying Marcus Smart's good, like, some unbelievably incredible score. That's not what you need, though. You need a guy who play defense. And you got there, knows his role, knows his job.
Yeah,
I think if he shares the floor with Clay and Steph, he knows he's not going to be jacking 3-pointers all day. You trade that for that first round pick, maybe that helps, both particular, programs and both teams in some instances.
Yeah, that'll be harder just because of the money, because Golden State's they're a tax team right now. So you'd have to take Wiggins back or move Wiggins somewhere else, someone like that. It's not that it couldn't happen, but it's harder. It'd be harder for Golden State. To me, a place I'd look, you mentioned Indiana, that makes sense. They kind of are,
what a mess that is.
Fired their coach, and I'm not sure what the hell's going on in that locker room in terms of, what do you guys want? You just got 2 coaches fired in 2 years. Like, you complain about everybody. What do you want?
Meanwhile, Nate is doing a great job with Atlanta.
And Nate's has a reasonably good chance of being in the conference finals in Atlanta. So, no, Atlanta or Indiana would make some sense for Marcus because they have players. Would you like Miles Turner back? Yes, I would like Miles Turner back. You know what I mean? If Indiana were so interested in that, New Orleans would make sense to me. That's another team. Look, they are under the gun. They have got to make that team better. Clock is ticking on both Zion and Brandon Ingram in terms of how long are they going to, be happy not making the playoffs. You know what I mean? So, I'll give you a guy like Steven Adams, who's on a descending contract, who's a big time defensive center, rim protector. Now, he's not as good as he was a couple of years ago. Would he help Boston? Yes, he would. Yes, he would. So a guy like that would make some sense if you were in the Marcus Smart trade business. A place like New Orleans would make some sense.
Hi guys, Cedric Maxwell here. I want to take a minute to tell you about Marigold Medical. I'm used to keeping my body in great shape, but with arthritis, even the most simple everyday tasks became unbearable. As soon as I called Marigold Medical, I knew I was in good hands. No drugs, no surgery, just an experienced team of caring professionals that wanted to get me back to doing the things I love. Make the call to Marigold Medical and get back to pain-free life.